Hello, and welcome to the latest installment of Law & Order, the video series where I look at and unpack stories from games. In this one, we'll be looking at the Season 1 finale of the Dark Pictures Anthology called The Devil in Me. Based upon the evil deeds of H.H. Holmes, the man considered to be America's first serial killer, this game was hugely entertaining, had loads of documents and secrets to find, and featured a serial killer not too dissimilar to Michael Myers. I've done story explain videos for the previous 3 installments, Man of Medan, Little Hope, and House of Ashes, and the links for those will be down in the description. Now, naturally there will be spoilers in this video considering that it's a very new game. Ready to get into it now, but before we do, a quick word from the sponsor of today's video, Atlas VPN. Atlas VPN are offering an incredible Black Friday 3-year deal for just $1.70 per month plus 6 months extra. With over 750 servers around the world, connection to Atlas VPN servers is incredibly stable and lightning fast, which means that if you're a gamer playing multiplayer horror titles such as Dead by Daylight, Devour or Phasmophobia, there'll be absolutely no lag. As well as that benefit, you'll also be safe from things like being DDoSed or even things like avoiding a lobby full of bots. You can even use it to bypass IP bans. Of course, it's not just used for gaming. As a sports fan myself, living in the UK is extremely difficult for watching any US sports, so I just hop onto Atlas VPN, fire up whatever US-based streaming service I use, and boom, I can watch anything, whether that be NBA, NFL, or MLB. This is also really good for using in conjunction with Netflix, where you can turn on your VPN and use it to access Netflix servers around the world. Different servers mean different options. You can use it on multiple devices, and Atlas VPN can also block any malicious links, ads, and trackers, and it also notifies you if and when someone is trying to steal your data. Make sure you take up this absolute steal of a Black Friday deal, because now you can get Atlas VPN Premium for just $1.70 per month, plus 6 months extra with a 30-day money-back guarantee. It's the best Atlas VPN offer of the year, so be quick and get your deal by clicking the link in the description or looking for the pinned link in the comments section. With all that being said, let's get into the video. It's 1893 in Chicago, Illinois. Newly married couple Jeff and Marie Whitman arrive at the World's Fair Hotel. They have come to Chicago to see the large Ferris wheel at the nearby Columbian Exposition. They go to check in, but there's no one around. A man eventually comes to greet the couple, and he introduces himself as Henry Howard Holmes. He also introduces himself as an architect, designer, builder, doctor, and an artist. Marie picks something to freshen up and Jeff browses the jewelry the hotel has to offer. After some tomfoolery, Jeff and Marie get shown to their room, the honeymoon suite. After a vicious pillow fight, Marie takes a bath and Jeff goes down to the lobby as he forgot his shaving kit. He mentions that he's sure the corridors have changed, and when he goes to use a door, a trapdoor opens beneath him and he almost suffers a grisly end. Realizing that Marie may be in danger, Jeff runs back to her. Meanwhile, Holmes is in the bathroom with Marie, and however this plays out, Holmes either drowns Marie or slashes her with a blade, causing her to bleed out. Jeff ends up confronting Holmes, but ends up running into another room. This turns out to be a grave mistake. Holmes releases some kind of gas, which causes Jeff to bleed from the nose and mouth, and Jeff eventually dies. Depending on the path chosen, Jeff and Marie have one last goodbye. 129 years later, a documentary film crew named Lonnet Entertainment are making documentaries on serial killers, and they're making a piece on H.H. Holmes. They're filming a mock-up of the H.H. Holmes trial, where Holmes uttered his infamous speech to the judge presiding over the trial.
I think we've heard quite enough.
Enough? Oh, I've barely begun, Your Honor. You don't seem to understand. I was born with the devil in me. I could not help the fact that I was a murderer any more than a poet can help the inspiration to sing. Bury me deep, Your Honor. Make sure they fill my pine box with cement. Put me deeper than anyone else. And cover the ground with more cement, 'cause trust me, just being dead ain't enough to stop me from killing again.
After filming the trial, the owner of the company and director, Charlie Lonnet, asks the group what they think of the film. The opinion, unanimously, is that it's pretty rubbish. After that scathing review, Charlie receives a phone call from a man named Grantham Dumet. Mr. Dumet gives Charlie and his crew an opportunity. He has inherited a full-scale model of the World's Fair Hotel and invites them to shoot some material there. The crew were scheduled for a few weeks off, but this is too good of an opportunity to pass up. They wait for the car that Mr. Dumet sent. It's a limousine. They load up their gear, get inside and set off. They discuss what they know about Dumet. That the man who left in the hotel was obsessed with H.H. Holmes, and that the rooms are full recreations from the murder castle. Charlie remarks that Dumet is doing this for free, which for Charlie's struggling media company is an absolute godsend. They eventually arrive but need to wait for the ferry to collect them and take them to the island on which the hotel is located. Charlie wants to capture the mist and fog and some footage of the lake, so he and Mark, the director of photography for the show, climb up a nearby decommissioned lighthouse to get a good shot, whilst show host Kate, lighting technician Jamie and audio technician Erin wait for the ferry. After making their way through what seems to be an abandoned house and obtaining their shot, they finally meet Mr. Dumet. He's twitchy and is acting pretty strange. They get to the island, but as they arrive, they're being watched by a man in a yellow coat. They then shoot their intro. Dumet pipes in, saying that under no circumstances are they to take any pictures or shoot any video with him in it, that he is a very private person. They all question why Dumet is acting so strange, but Charlie says that he just values his privacy. As they leave for the hotel, Kate sees the man in the yellow raincoat picking up their bags. Privately, Charlie tells Kate that Dumet is hiding something, and he wants to know what it is. Kate fakes an injury to her ankle, and her and Jamie manage to separate from the rest of the group. They find a burnt structure which has a picture of Dumet and what seems to be his family, and then they have to hide from the yellow coat man, who goes into a locked area and then leaves. Inside said area is a hazardous substance. They get back to the crew and all of them arrive at the hotel. Kate sees a little girl in the window who then disappears. Dumet then ushers them all into the hotel, but he seems panicky. They're astounded by the hotel and they all sign into the guest book and then go to their rooms. Erin sees Mr. Dumet and the little girl hugging one another, and the girl is crying. Erin is a bit freaked out, so Jamie offers to help her find her room. They have a thing for one another, and after some cringy flirting, they speak to Charlie, who can't find his room. He also mentions that Mr. Dumet will be meeting them for dinner shortly. Charlie is also desperate for a cigarette. Erin and Charlie leave Jamie's room, and Jamie sees Mr. Dumet and the little girl running and boarding the ferry and leaving the island. Erin goes with Charlie to his room and says that his cigarettes are in his blue bag, but they aren't there. Erin does, however, find a letter. Seems like Charlie's company is in deep trouble. The letter is an eviction notice. Erin quizzes Charlie on the way down to the lobby on whether or not their jobs are safe, and Charlie convinces her that they are. The lobby has a bar, and Charlie thinks that he may find cigarettes there. The bar is locked, but a mysterious person leaves the bar key on the counter. Charlie gets inside and sees an animatronic behind the bar. He laughs at it, naturally, and asks it for some cigarettes, but it points at an ancient cigarette machine on the wall. Charlie robs some money from the till and tries to get the cigarettes, but no luck. A masked figure appears behind him, but then disappears. Erin appears and tells Charlie that it's dinner time.
And I'm coming back for you with a fucking pry bar.
Meanwhile, Kate and Mark, who recently broke up, have a chat about a job Mark turned down in Detroit. They need to shoot some footage and walk around the hotel trying to find some good natural light. Random doors leading to other hallways appear to be locked, which Kate finds strange. But eventually she and Mark end up in the hotel's library. Mark comments on the smell, a stench of decay, almost like something is rotting. He sees the man in the yellow coat outside again, moving through the library and definitely being watched. Mark manages to find a key to the balcony overlooking the lobby. They see a H.H. Holmes hat sat on a pedestal, and it scares both Mark and Kate. They hear Erin calling everyone for dinner, and Kate is annoyed they didn't get a shot. They have a minor disagreement, and Kate is slagging off Charlie. Little do they know that he is listening to every word from the lobby. Nonetheless, everyone convenes for dinner. Jamie breaks the news that Dumet probably isn't going to join them, as she saw him leave earlier on. Charlie tries to stay positive and says that maybe Dumet had a legitimate reason. Charlie says that they should take advantage of the situation and start shooting anyway. Whilst the team go and prepare for shooting, the mysterious figure is dressing some mannequins to resemble the crew members. Erin goes to her bedroom to grab some gear and hears the sound of a little girl crying. She uses her directional microphone to track the sound, and then the walls appear to be moving and directing her somewhere. And then the lights in the hotel go out. She hears machinery, people screaming and crying, and a couple arguing coming from behind the walls. Back in the lobby, it seems that it was Jamie who caused the blackout in the hotel, and she has to try and turn the lights back on. She flips the fuses, turning the lights back on, and then comes across an unsettling mannequin barbershop quartet. Charlie's in the lobby and they wait around for the rest of the crew to join them. Erin, meanwhile, finds the source of the crying. It's a trap. It's just a tape recorder. A Holmes mannequin scares her, and she screams. The door then shuts behind her and the lights go out. Jamie, who has met up with Charlie, hears her screams and she and Charlie run to the room along with Kate and Mark. Erin has asthma and needs her inhaler as 1, she is panicking, and 2, the room is really dusty. The rest of the crew desperately work to try and get Erin out of the room. Mark and Charlie tell Erin to stay calm whilst Kate and Jamie try to find something to break into the room. Erin sees a mysterious figure enter the room who strangely appears to offer her an inhaler. Desperate for the inhaler, she reaches for it, but the man grabs her arm. Weirdly, he cuts off some of her hair and then just leaves. Kate found a candlestick and uses it to break the door handle. Erin is shaken up and tells them about the man in the room with her, but they don't really believe her and they take Erin to her room to rest. The crew says their experience so far has just been too weird and they've had enough. Charlie wants them to continue shooting and he leaves with Jamie to try and find Dumet, and Kate and Mark go and pack and get ready to leave. Charlie reveals that he's not even looking for Dumet, he's just scouting for shots. They get down to the lobby and it's been ransacked. The counter above the stairs now also reads 180. They spot a trail of blood leading down a corridor and they're pretty freaked out. They hear Dumet's voice over a tannoy system and assume that he's there in the hotel with them. They come across a terrifying sight. The man with the yellow coat sat on a chair and Charlie, not looking where he's stepping, steps on a pressure plate linked to a blade directly above the man. If Charlie moves, the man will die. To raise the stakes a little, the mysterious man arrives and threatens Charlie with a knife. Charlie either stands his ground and gets cut, steps back, or Jamie pulls him back, leading to the man dying a gruesome death. The lights go out and the deceased man and the mysterious stranger are gone. Charlie and Jamie run back to the lobby and decide it's definitely time to leave. Charlie notes the stranger's mask and they try to leave, but metal bars prevent them from doing so. Back with Kate and Mark, Kate is hanging on to her amethyst crystal as it helps with her anxiety. They back and forth a bit about their relationship, boring stuff, and then they leave to go and get Erin. Kate comes across a newspaper. It's an article highlighting that once before Kate had a best friend called Shelby who was herself targeted and killed by a serial killer at their college campus. She's freaked out how and why it's just sat there, almost as if someone placed it there to torment her. Then they hear a sound and the wall starts shifting. Kate and Mark see Jamie and Charlie and the wall separates them and both pairs try to find a way to regroup with the others. Jamie and Charlie talk about Dumet and his twitchy, nervous demeanour and suspect that the man they met on the ferry wasn't Dumet at all, that the stranger in the mask is Dumet. They eventually get led to a large walk-in meat freezer where they find the frozen body of a Natalie Morello. They try to leave, but when Charlie removes the handle for the door, a trapdoor opens beneath him and he falls down into a basement, hitting his head and passing out. Jamie, in the meantime, wanders the hallways trying to find a way back to Charlie. Erin, meanwhile, sees her door close, and a secret door in her room leads her to a dusty corridor. After a quick hit from her inhaler, she ends up at some sort of asylum area called the Silver Ash Institute. She finds 2 creepy mannequins that look very real. She also sees Jamie's phone inside a locked case with a message to her friend Laurel, and Jamie hasn't exactly been saying the most endearing things about Erin. Someone is trying to torment her. Erin finds a recording.
Mr. Dumet, I want my team dead. I'll get them to you this weekend. Just do it.
Jesus! Charlie!
Jamie, meanwhile, comes across a projector which is a feed of the Silver Ash Institute. She sees Erin walking around, and on the projector is a note telling Jamie to instruct Erin to hide in a nearby cupboard or he will kill her. Erin can choose to comply or not, but as we are trying to save her, she successfully hides from Dumet. Kate and Mark eventually realise that they were locked in the hotel and come across a creepy scene.
I'd like to toast all of you. Really. I know that I'm the butt of your jokes, and that's just my cross to bear as the patriarch of our little family. Mark and Jamie, the 2 of you do the work of a team of 10. And Kate, despite our bickering, you are the heart of this show. You keep people interested.
Jamie walks back through the hallways after saving Erin. After almost being clocked by Mark, they talk about how messed up this all is. Jamie's mannequin starts glitching out, so she hits it with a wine bottle, and to their absolute shock, a human eyeball pops out. They attempt to leave, but the door is locked. They enter the bar area and try to find a way out through the cellar. They find Charlie's lighter and see monitors behind a locked door with Charlie on them. Whilst they're trying to get the door unlocked, Charlie, who is now awoken after a short nap, explores the cellar and goes through a series of doors. He is lured into a furnace by, his packet of cigarettes. Shock horror, the door closes behind him and he's locked in by Dumet. Now, at the same time, Kate, Jamie and Mark get the door open, and both of them and Charlie see a mannequin rise from the ground with a lighter. It lights the furnace, which is now filled with gas. Charlie has a choice: to try and reach for the door handle on the other side of the door, or to get under the grating away from the flames. Mark, meanwhile, has to hold a lever in place, preventing the furnace from getting too hot, under the threat of being burned alive himself. Kate pulls Mark away just in time. Dumet then listens as Charlie burns alive. The others lament the loss of Charlie and they're being watched by Dumet. He opens a door, he's funneling them right where he needs them to go. Following the tunnel, the group end up in what appears to be an old run-down spa called the Columbus Spa. Again, surprise surprise, Jamie and Mark get separated from Kate. On their way back to her through a locker area, Jamie and Mark see mannequins, but they all seem to be staged, all dying in specific ways. Two in particular seem to be the unfortunate victims of a sick game where only one can survive. They regroup with Kate again, but they're being stalked. They find their way back to the lobby and the counter has changed again. 181. Back with Erin, she leaves the cupboard she was hiding in, but is startled by Dumet. He's sat there waiting for her. He walks after her, chasing her straight into a door which seals behind her. On the other side, Kate does the same thing after hearing Erin's scream. They are both now locked in a contraption which sucks the air out of both sections. A regulator can only save one of them. They have to choose. I chose to kill Kate, and that was a good decision, as Kate's window actually has a leak, and Mark managed to break the window, saving Kate. Kate says that Charlie is dead, and Erin says that he got what was coming to him. She explains the tape she heard of Charlie telling Dumet to kill his crew. The crew are naturally skeptical, but they say they need to stick together. Dumet is listening to them and he gets to work in separating them. Mark falls through a trapdoor and Jamie gets separated from Kate and Erin. Mark is then in another area of the basement. He has to hide from Dumet a couple of times, but finds a mannequin head featuring human teeth and an ear attached to it, along with another lifelike animatronic. Despite the threat of the killer, Mark finds a way out. Whilst Mark was pottering about in the basement, Jamie finds a mirror with a latch behind it, leading to a secret area with a camera and monitors. Not only that, but a strange scene featuring an interrogation room and another human-like animatronic smoking a cigarette. Dumet is there in the room, but eventually leaves. Kate and Erin search a nearby room after hearing yet more crying noises and find an unfinished book about someone called the Beast of Arkansas. On the back is the man that they thought was Dumet. His name is actually Joseph Morello, a true crime writer. In a locked room, they find the source of the crying, an animatronic with a real human head. She matches the woman on the picture Kate found earlier on. Back in the basement, turns out that Charlie is alive. He dusts himself off and moves further into the basement. He finds the man they saw die earlier was just an animatronic, designed to scare them. He also finds a blackboard detailing Dumet's animatronic design, which uses real humans. Charlie sees no other way out than to use a conveyor belt, but he has to hide from Dumet, who is disposing of all their belongings by grinding them into nothing. Charlie, trying to avoid a grisly end, manages to stay calm and Dumet finally leaves. Jamie eventually sees Kate and Erin on the other side of a one-way mirror, and she smashes the glass. They hear Dumet coming, so they hide and enter into a massive core structure in the hotel, a control center, the place where Dumet controls all of his traps, cameras, and moving walls. They find an email conversation which shows that Dumet ordered his mask that he wears to be custom made. Another document shows that he's modeling his look on that of H.H. Holmes. They formulate a plan to trap Dumet between two moving walls in the section of the hotel that is still under construction. Jamie acts as the bait, and sure enough, Dumet chases her and walks right into their trap. But Dumet knows the hotel better than them and confronts Jamie. She runs and manages to get back to her friends, but Dumet is still calmly pursuing them. Jamie and Kate get trapped inside yet another contraption of death, a moving glass wall which will crush the other. On Jamie's side is a button. She has to choose to press and kill Kate, or do nothing and sacrifice herself. Depending on whether or not Kate received a screwdriver from Jamie earlier on, this will affect who lives and dies. If Kate received the screwdriver from Jamie, Jamie presses the button and Kate uses the screwdriver at the very last second to shatter the glass from the pressure. If she doesn't have the screwdriver and Jamie presses the button, well, death. Assuming they live, they regroup with Erin, but they don't have much rest time as Dumet chases them again. They all exit through a window in one of the rooms, and after hiding and a brief struggle, they make it down to the rear of the hotel. They are in a garden maze and they find a secret room underneath the carousel. Dumet, sly as ever, is posing as a statue and gives chase yet again. They go through a barn whilst being chased and are rewarded with a bit of good fortune as the decking beneath them collapses and they will fall down the hill. Mark comes to the end of the vent he escaped through and finds an old swimming pool area which leads him round a cliffside path. Mark finds that the ferry controls are not working. It's been shut down. Further up the path, Mark finds a furry friend called Connie. the dog belonging to the Morello family. Mark climbs down a nearby elevator shaft and comes across an old derelict building. Charlie, meanwhile, encounters Connie the dog himself and climbs down the same elevator shaft and meets up with Mark. They enter the building, an old curing house, and it stinks in there. They have to hide in a couple of freezers as Dumet turns up. Charlie has to stay calm, or, death. Dumet leaves and they find the preserved body of a man named Harrison Lee, along with notes on the preservation process. It's clear that Dumet is trying to find suitable specimens for his animatronics. They exit the curing house and see the lighthouse on top of the hill. Kate and Jamie try to find Erin as they got separated, and they end up at an abandoned house. They come across Connie the dog, whose collar is caught on something, but they are disturbed yet again by Dumet. Jamie hides with the dog and Kate hides behind the couch. Connie growls at Dumet and barks, giving away Jamie's position, but before Dumet can kill her, she is saved by Kate and they run outside. Dumet then leaves. Charlie and Mark come across Erin by the lighthouse and Erin confronts Charlie about the recording they found. Mark backs Charlie up though and they go into the house through the basement window. Mark finds a key for a boat along with a recording showing that the recording Erin found earlier was doctored, a fake. Mark then makes his way to the top of the lighthouse and manages to turn it on. He goes downstairs and sees Jamie and Kate running towards the house. Mark is ambushed by Dumet though and a fight takes place between the two. Kate and Jamie enter the house and come across a strange sight. An elderly lady in a rocking chair and, of course, Dumet turned her into an animatronic. Hearing the commotion coming from upstairs, Kate opens the door and depending on how the fight went, she finds Mark lying on the floor. They run from Dumet and head towards the dock. Due to Mark turning on the lighthouse, a police officer arrives via boat to investigate as the lighthouse is supposed to be decommissioned. He finds the bodies of Joseph Morello and his young daughter on the dock. A tense standoff takes place between the officer and the crew, but Dumet turns up and chops the officer's hand off and kills him. Mark tries to grab the officer's gun, but Dumet knocks it into the water. Mark grabs the officer's pepper spray. They head for the boat and board it along with Connie. They struggle to get the boat started and manage to do so just in time as Dumet pursues them. They talk on the boat about how happy they are to all be alive, but in true slasher horror style, Dumet isn't done. He tries to swing for Erin, who dodges and falls into the water. Charlie does the same. Jamie evades Dumet and jumps in too, leaving Kate and Mark on the boat. Mark is in danger of being killed by Dumet, so he uses the pepper spray, temporarily incapacitating Dumet. Mark then grabs a small anchor and throws it at Dumet. The chain gets caught in the propeller blades, dragging him underwater, killing him. Kate and Mark then dive in before the boat hits the rocks. They all then swim to shore and a passing truck driver sees them calling for help, and he calls the state police who rescue the crew. What an ordeal. It's finally over. Dumet is dead. Or is he? The final shot is of some friends getting excited about a free trip to an island for 5 people, and that Mr. Dumet will be sending a limo. The game then ends. So that's the dumbed down version of the plot. Now we'll get into looking at the secrets found in the game and how they explain everything that happens or has happened in the game. So now we'll look at America's first serial killer, H.H. Holmes. We won't go too in depth here as the game is mostly just inspired by him, but we'll look at his background and how the hotel came to be. Real name Herman Mudgett, H.H. Holmes hid under the guise of being a doctor, a businessman. Holmes designed a hotel which on the outside was a grand spectacle, but within the walls was a murder castle designed for disposing of human bodies, leaving absolutely no trace of them. But let's go back a bit. Early on, before Herman Mudgett even started designing his hotel, he arrived in Chicago and immediately found work in the suburb of Englewood. He found work at the E.S. Holton drugstore. A few months later, Everett S. Holton dies of supposed natural causes. Yeah, sure. Then, after selling the drugstore to Mudgett, Claire Holton, Everett's wife, goes missing. Now that Mudgett owned the drugstore, he had a good supply of cash coming in. He would assume various aliases at this point, with him becoming known as Henry Howard Holmes. He came up with ways to make more money and would scam people out of their money. In 1888, he secures the lease for a plot of land across the street from his drugstore. It's now that he starts the design of his murder castle, the World's Fair Hotel. Holmes's dream was about to be realised. He would hire work crews but then fire them under the guise of them doing poor work, and he would not pay them. This way, with different constructions groups involved, only he would truly know the layout of his hotel. He would have the finest wares and he'd buy them on credit and simply refuse to pay for them. Holmes also had a huge bank vault installed in the hotel, but built a room around it and then refused to pay for the vault. The bank then said that they'll repossess the vault, but Holmes craftily said that they can do so, but if they damage his hotel's building in any way, then he'll sue them. The design of the hotel was meticulous, specific rooms designed to kill people in a very certain way. He would dispose of the bodies, and on one occasion he sold a skeleton to Hahnemann Medical College for around $200. Eventually, in 1895, the game was up for Holmes, and Chicago police entered the hotel. They found unimaginable horrors, including a medieval-style dungeon. Holmes would be arrested and trialed and sentenced to death by hanging after confessing to 27 murders. However, investigators considered there to be as many as 200. The castle was touted to be turned into a museum, but it was eventually burned down. No one knew how or why, but many considered it to be a disgruntled citizen, not wanting people to profit off of something so heinous. Allegedly, at Holmes' execution on May 7, 1896, it took 15 minutes for him to die, as his neck didn't snap from the force of the hanging. But after his execution, Holmes would live on. On June 12, 1965, a boy named Hector Munday was born to his mother Lucinda. His father Clarence wasn't around and left while Lucinda was pregnant. Lucinda didn't cope well at all with this and started to physically abuse Hector. His teachers noticed the abuse and bruising on his body, and the abuse affected his behaviour at school. A letter from the school principal, Mr. Thompson, to Hector's mother wasn't received at all well. Shortly after this, a medical report on Hector shows him suffering from the effects of secondhand smoke, as his mother was smoking around him. He also showed signs on his body of being physically restrained. Now, back at home, Hector occasionally read a children's book about a lonely boy who himself read a book about a boy who lived with his strict aunt. The boy in that book then got tired of being told off all the time and wore a mask to scare his aunt. This book would ultimately be an inspiration to Hector Munday later in life. Anyway, years later, Hector would study for and obtain a degree in psychology in May of 1988. The following year, he joined the FBI at the age of around 23, and a short time later he joined the FBI's Behavioral Science Unit and would become Special Agent Hector Munday. A few years later, in 1992, his mother Lucinda is moved to a nursing wing called Twilight Prairie. Now, this is where Hector's life takes a rather sinister turn. Special Agent Munday is assigned to a case where he meets a serial killer named Manny Sherman. In the 90s, there was a serial killer in Arkansas named one Manny Sherman, aka the Beast of Arkansas. Sherman went on a rampage and killed 13 people. He lured realtors to a plot of land on top of which stood houses scheduled for demolition. He posed as a contractor, claiming he was interested in flipping the houses, and then miles from anywhere he would kill his victims. He would even use the sound of overhead aircraft to mask their screams. He was eventually arrested in 1997 after a long investigation headed up by Hector Munday. But Sherman seems to notice something during the sessions in which Munday is interrogating him. He notices that Munday almost seems to be learning from him, hanging on every word. What's more is that Sherman tells Munday that he is an original in terms of his methods, but he did take inspiration from another serial killer, H.H. Holmes. Sherman waxes lyrical about Holmes, saying that he was the first, America's first, that Holmes invented the trade, that he was the benchmark. Sherman says that even though he is a killer, he is still smart. In the third session, Sherman straight up tells Munday that he seems different. He tells Munday that he sees a glimmer in his eye, and he calls him a little devil. Sherman has seen something in Hector Munday. He tells Munday that he kills people and calls it art. Not murder, but an aesthetic response to what the world had made him into. He then asks Agent Munday if he's left his mark on the world. Then, in their final session, Sherman indicates something. He realizes that Munday is himself a psychopath. And this happens.
I see the gleam in your eye, Agent Munday. You're not fooling me. Ah, look at you now, huh? Am I gonna be your first? Well, come on then, huh? I'm right here. This room is soundproof. You don't even have to wait for a plane to fly overhead. There you are. I see you now. feel good, huh? But the blade makes for such a prettier picture. You've got potential, Agent Munday, if you truly want to be an artist.
A switch has been flipped. Hector, over the years, learning, nay, obsessing, over Manny Sherman, Hector became consumed by his case. Over the years and during the case, Hector would visit his mother, but by 1997 she was very ill. She was diagnosed with lung cancer the previous year and was dying. Hector would visit his mother often, and rather bizarrely, he would record his mother's voice, much to the discomfort of the other residents on the wing, along with the staff, and was asked to stop doing so by the manager of Twilight Prairie.
Of your mother, and we do believe in supporting relatives, and of course, you want to capture those precious memories. But we've had complaints from some of the other residents who are disturbed by the volume and the content of the recordings, and also some of the language used. We would like to ask that these recordings stop with immediate effect. Please do call me if you want to discuss this further. Thanks.
So due to his successful capture of Manny Sherman, Hector was assigned to a brand new case in October of 1997, investigating another serial killer, this time in Chicago. This serial killer had already claimed 2 lives, and many more were anticipated. One of these victims had their teeth removed, and another had their ear removed. Investigations found that the first victim, who had their teeth removed, was actually still alive, whereas the second victim with their ear had to be done post-mortem. The coroner indicates that the killer seems to be learning on the job, and not just that, it seems the killer is keeping souvenirs. Then on the 11th of January 1998, Lucinda Munday passed away with Hector at her bedside. But the dark side of her death is that Hector was the one that killed her. It gets worse. A couple of weeks later, Hector steals her body from her grave and takes it back home with him. He then preserves his mother and turns it into an animatronic. I know, it's mental. He places a speaker in her mouth, and that is why he was recording her. Hector is clearly unable to process the fact that his mother is gone. In July of that same year, Hector is subject to a psych evaluation by a Dr. Isabella Garcia due to the fact that his mother's death is affecting his work. And this is how that session went.
Psychological assessment conducted by Dr. Isabella Garcia. Patient name, Munday, Hector. Behavioral observation. Hector arrived at our scheduled appointment 24 minutes late. Once we sat down and began the session, he struggled to maintain eye contact. He found it difficult to articulate his feelings and was terse and guarded throughout. Hector has been working long hours and, as a result, isn't sleeping well. Hector spoke about his recently deceased mother and displayed evidence that he hasn't yet fully come to terms with her death. I strongly recommended a course of antidepressants, but he is resistant to this idea, believing that it would have a detrimental effect on his capability with regards to his current investigation. Hector describes his work in immaculate detail, and contrary to earlier in the session, his thought content is both coherent and logical. He is displaying an unhealthy obsession with his work, but his recent bereavement may be the underlying issue.
It seems that Hector is throwing himself deeper into his work to escape the reality of his mother dying. Special Agent Munday eventually goes missing, and an officer, Officer Stanley, goes to his place to check in on him. The officer arrives to find blood everywhere, and he is killed. The police then put out an APB broadcast.
All units, this is dispatch. Be on the lookout for a male suspect believed to be the Shoeshine Killer. Suspect is FBI Special Agent Hector Munday. He may be armed and is highly dangerous.
Dispatch, this is Officer Martinez. I found Munday's car, requesting backup.
Officer Martinez, what's your location?
A warehouse on Park Avenue, Fulton River. Looks abandoned.
Officer Martinez, backup on its way. Hold your position.
Copy that. Shit! He's seen me!
Officer Martinez, hold your position.
Shit! We have a situation. Dispatch, the building's on fire.
Fire department on their way.
He's still in there. You read me? Copy. He's
still in there.
Good morning, Chicago. We begin today with some breaking news. Chicago police today confirmed the body of a man found in a fire at an abandoned warehouse in the Fulton River District to be that of missing FBI agent Hector Munday. Munday has been identified as the Shoeshine Killer, whose recent killing spree struck fear into the hearts of locals in and around Chicago. A spokesperson for Chicago PD confirmed Munday murdered 4 victims, including yesterday evening police officer Patrick Stanley, a dedicated veteran of 22 years. The fire was brought under control shortly before 5 a.m. this morning. The body recovered at the scene was burnt beyond recognition, but police identified Munday from dental records.
Well, who didn't see that one coming? Shortly before his death, Hector Munday had audaciously entered the police evidence lockup and stole a load of evidence pertaining to him. The police chalked it down to souvenir hunters and fanatics. So Munday fakes his own death, but of course he cannot use the name Hector Munday anymore, so he comes up with a number of aliases. A couple of the aliases Munday would assume were those of Leonard Kemp and Richard Belknap. Munday would capture animals and kill them, turning them into animatronics. Belknap would go on to befriend a young couple named Mark and Jennifer Edwards, and in 2011, their life insurance specialist would receive notice for their entire estate to be left to Richard Belknap in the event of their deaths. He had somehow convinced this couple to leave him absolutely everything. That included the lighthouse and all of the land it sat on. Lo and behold, the Edwards both ended up dead, but it's not clear when exactly. On that land was an old hotel. Now, it looks like the hotel closed down in 1934 due to water damage, collapsing a ceiling in the boiler room of the hotel's spa. This is why Mark, whilst in the library, says that he can detect the stench of decay, like something is rotting. In January 2017, he puts his plan in motion. Himself inspired by H.H. Holmes, thanks in large part to Manny Sherman, Munday birthed a similar fantasy: to create a full-scale replica of Holmes' murder castle as a tourist attraction. He hires a contractor and gives them plans for the hotel. They quote him a massive $838,000 for the work, and much like Holmes, Munday, or rather his current alias Richard Belknap, has absolutely no intention of paying that money. Work then commences on the hotel on the 13th of January 2017, and will be completed on the 24th of March 2017. The logbook shows that over those 10 weeks, equipment had been going missing, and one of the crew, James Kelly, had left a note stating that he had an emergency. Another of the crew, Bobby, then also left. The crew, to their credit, eventually managed to finish the hotel's construction, but the day after they were due to finish, Richard Belknap has requested further renovations, this time to the hotel's spa. The firm instruct the site foreman, Jesse Clark, to run a cost assessment for the requested work, and the firm will send a replacement crew to take over from them. But here's where Belknap's sinister plan comes to the fore. The remaining crew, Jesse, Laura, Frank, Monica, and Ryan, stay to complete the extra work while they wait for the replacement crew. It only takes one day before things start going wrong. Ryan leaves a note for Jesse and says that his mother isn't well. Jesse is sure that Ryan's mother had already died years back. Belknap then helped Monica install the tannoy system, and then Belknap reported Monica wasn't feeling well, so she went to lie down. Belknap then writes a resignation letter on behalf of Monica, and Laura hasn't come out of her room. In truth, Belknap has been killing them one by one. In one particular game, he pitted Monica and Ryan Hart, likely brother and sister, against one another in a sick game, not too dissimilar to something out of Saw. Jesse and Frank plan to return to the mainland the following morning. They don't make it. Frank and Jesse both end up dead. With the entire crew dead, Belknap finished the remaining work himself. He spent the next few months acquiring various H.H. Holmes memorabilia like Holmes' actual hat, not a cheap purchase at just over 24 grand, but of course, he bought it on credit. He also obtained Jeff and Marie's jewelry that Holmes stole from them back in 1893. He also had a custom mask made to help him look like H.H. Holmes, and perfected his look. He installed various things around his hotel, one of which was the animatronic corpse of Manny Sherman, which you'll recall he body snatched from his grave. Then, in November of the same year, with everything in place, he wrote to Kelly Schroeder of KD Contractors. Seems that Belknap fabricated a story that involved a tragedy regarding the crew dying in the lake surrounding the island. He then invited Kelly and her team to the grand opening on the 17th of November so that they can experience the hotel for themselves. It's safe to say that they all ended up dead. Over time, Munday perfected the hotel experience for 5 people at a time. By the time the guests get there, they see a counter by the staircase with the number 178 on it. This represents the number of victims that the hotel has claimed. Munday had now fabricated a new alias, Grantham Dumet. He fabricated a story that he, Grantham Dumet, had inherited the hotel from a relative. The hotel register shows us that Dumet is faithfully sticking by his 5 people at a time rule. The month of October had been a busy month for him. 5 people arrived at the end of September and then checked out from life, of course. Then the following day, 5 more people arrived. This group consisted of horror fiction writer Harrison Lee and his husband Lewis, along with Harrison's publicist Kurt Hall, his wife Cecil, and Kurt's son Thomas. A note shows us what happened to them. Harrison Lee died by asphyxiation, Lewis died via drowning, Cecil was impaled on a sundial, and Kurt and Thomas were shot. Dumet wasn't finished there though. He would keep Harrison Lee's body and use it to document Dumet's preservation of the body. He moved it to a curing house, and he placed him in formaldehyde and noticed that he was not showing signs of obvious deterioration, so considered him to be made into an animatronic, a prime candidate, much like he did with his mother. It's clear from this that he wants more specimens in order to make more animatronics. The following day, another 5 people arrive, this time the Morello family. Joseph Morello was contacted by Grantham Dumet on the 14th of October 2022. Morello was an author who wrote works on serial killers. His area of specialty? H.H. Holmes. It just so happened that Morello was actually writing a book about Manny Sherman. Dumet used Morello's fascination of Holmes to lure Morello to the island and to the hotel. Morello, of course, was asked to invite 4 friends or family members along too. He took his wife, Michelle, and their 2 daughters, Natalie and Bethany, and also his brother Francis. They arrive, but it doesn't take long for them to be targeted. He observes Michelle from his command center, brainstorming ways in which he can kill her. He kills Natalie, the older daughter, and places her in a meat freezer. He chops Francis' hand off and leaves him to bleed out in a wooden shed. All that's left is Joseph and his youngest daughter Bethany, but he spared them both. But why did Dumet leave them alive? Now, the good ending didn't tell us what Munday's, or Dumet's, deal really was. He always had them arrive in groups of 5, and his planning was meticulous. But he would never lure people to the island himself, not directly anyway. He would plan down to the finest detail. He managed to get the team's medical history and observe them for a while, managing to get a lot of information about them. Remember, he was an expert in this kind of thing due to his old job with the FBI. A secret ending achieved under specific circumstances reveals a cycle that he was following. Under these circumstances, Erin, Jamie, and Charlie must die, and the sole survivors need to be Kate and Mark all the way up until the final section. Mark activates the lighthouse and gets into a fight with Dumet. Dumet then takes Mark's place, wearing his jacket, and tricks Kate, who is drugged by Dumet. They both get dragged away, and Kate is strapped to a table with the threat of being drip-fed hydrochloric acid, and Mark is locked inside some sort of chamber featuring a phone. Then, a familiar face comes up on screen, Joseph Morello. This is what he has to say.
My name is Joseph Morello.
What is this?
I'm a true crime author. If you're hearing this, then yesterday we met and I led you to believe I was Grantham Dumet. I had no choice in the matter. I was asked to do this by the actual Dumet. And now, he needs you to do the same thing and make a call. The number is on speed dial. Whoever answers, you need to tell them that you are Dumet. There's a script in front of you. Use it. Then get them to the island.
Wait. What?
Mark.
Just like I did to you. Ferry them over. Get them into the house. I'm sorry. I didn't want to do this, but it was the only way he'd give me back my daughter. I had to get her back. I'm so sorry. But whoever he has that you care about, they don't have much time.
Dumet would keep one person alive to make a call under duress, and would keep another person, a loved one, as a hostage, if you like, to ensure that they would follow through with his request. He would then let them go, but not really, as he would end up killing them when they tried to leave via the ferry. Dumet had pre-chosen Mark to be the ferryman, as seen here. His intention was to keep Kate, due to her and Mark being romantically involved, and use her to coerce Mark into making the phone call, to keep the cycle going. Mark can obviously refuse to make the call to the next victim, but if he goes along with it, the next target is revealed to be someone named Collins. These people here. Mark and Kate then tried to leave like Morello and his daughter tried to, but they too get shot by Dumet. So essentially, if Mark and Kate got captured, they invite the Collins to the island, but if everyone survived, the group of teenagers at the end of the game get invited instead. Now, lastly, the final scene with the Curator was a bit odd. He is looking at and writing down a list of names. Herman Mudgett, Henry Howard Holmes, Hector Munday and Grantham Dumet. All of the originals and the aliases. He looks visibly annoyed, and then the whole place rumbles and shakes, and then something slams and hits the door leading to the repository. What is happening? Has the Curator allowed too many people to live, therefore something higher and more powerful than him is coming for him? Throughout Man of Medan, Little Hope and House of Ashes, aside from the stories and the way they play out, many have been intrigued by the Curator and what exactly his role is. I guess we'll be able to find out a little bit more when Directive 8020 releases. I'm sure people will come up with theories after this on who exactly he is and what that last scene means, considering that this is the Season 1 finale of the Dark Pictures Anthology, but let me know your thoughts and theories down below. However, that is it for this video. I have thoroughly enjoyed Season 1 of the anthology. Like I said, if you want to check out the other installments, then the links are down in the description. If you enjoyed this video though, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe. But for now, take care and I will see you in the next one.